Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Fashion Means Business 2020 Takeover. I'm Hannah Middleton, the Knowledge Exchange Lead for Fashion Business School, London College of Fashion, and I will be chairing this roundtable discussion that focuses on the recent impact of the pandemic on the fashion retail industry. Data analytics is not new to the fashion industry. For many years, we've analysed sales data. However, what is new is how much data is now available. Reading an article published in 2018 by Bernard Marr, a strategic business and technology advisor, there are 2.5 quintillion bytes of data created each day, with 90% of the data in the world generated in the past 2 years. In light of the current pandemic and the closure of stores here in the UK, online sales have increased, meaning there is so much more data available and greater opportunity for fashion retailers to better understand their customers. It's a question as to what fashion retailers do with the data they collect, with only 70% of data being used currently by the industry. The Fashion Business School was ranked second in the 2020 Business of Fashion rankings for graduate and undergraduate courses and awarded Best Overall, Best for Long-Term Value, and Best for Global Influence. We pride ourselves at equipping graduate students with the skills they need to stand out in the industry. We feel it's imperative, therefore, for our students to understand how data can be used to shape decisions and give insights into the future so as to drive profitability. We've been teaching data analytics across our undergrad and postgraduate courses for over 2 years now. And in February 21, we are to launch our MSc in Fashion Analytics and Forecasting. In May of this year, we were honoured to be approached by IMRG, the UK's Online Retail Association, best known for running the largest online performance tracking programme in the UK. IMRG wanted to collaborate with Fashion Business School, London College of Fashion, on a series of research programmes that would span all retail sectors. It's with great pleasure, therefore, that I welcome today the IMRG team and the Fashion Business School students who've been involved in this first recent research programme. So Justin, welcome. Would you like to say a couple of words by introduction?
Oh, thanks, Hannah. What a lovely introduction. Quintillion, I didn't actually know that was a word. So I've learned something already. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Justin, IMRG's MD. I'd like to start with a massive thank you to you all for being involved in this research partnership. I fully appreciate how busy you guys must be with your degree studies. It's hugely important to us in the retail sector generally, and it's nice to have a chance to actually show you kind of how and why what you're doing in this project is really useful. So here at IMRG, we've been tracking online sales data forever, it feels like, certainly for the best part of 20 years, when e-commerce was merely embryonic. The peaks and troughs we've tracked over the last 2 decades tell some amazing stories, actually. The impact of big consumer tech, such as tablets and smartphones, had a massive impact on the growth curves. Changing nature of retail spend with events very topically, such as Black Friday, and of course, most recently, the pandemic. So we now have more than 25 billion in sales being tracked, and it's the UK's largest and most authoritative tracking study by far. You'll often read reports from IMRG in the national and trade media, or you'll see us on TV and radio and what have you. And basically they rely on us very heavily for the information and the reports that they put out to market, as does in fact the entire retail sector itself. So IMRG doesn't just report what is happening online. We're now well known for the insight that helps retailers get better at selling online. And we call this actionable insight. Basically, insight derived from data studies, such as the ones you're involved with here, that show retailers, what action to take, how to optimize their websites and e-commerce propositions to be more effective and to sell more online. And as Hannah just said now, there's more data than ever before. And retailers obsess over trying to make sense of it to sort of drive change in their business. So the work you're doing here and the focus of your degree course is really, really important. It matters. It helps inform the whole industry. You need to tell me, how much competition as well there is for jobs at the moment, especially in the fashion sector. Very, very popular sector. Everybody wants to be in it. But arming yourselves with the commercial skills to understand and interpret data in this way is going to make you stand out big time. So it's genuinely exciting times, and a big thanks to you all.
Thank you very much, Justin. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I know the students, despite their other commitments, have thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity for this great research collaboration. That's
lovely to hear. Thank you. Likewise.
Andy, can I hand over to you, please? Thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Andy Mulcahy, so I'm the Insight Director at IMRG. So I suppose my role is to try and make sense of all the stuff that we're collating. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you how we used some of the stuff that you were tracking. So Matthew, if you can just share your screen. So as Justin was saying there, the thing that we're best known for is for tracking online sales. So we get the hard data from the retailers. And Matthew's going to talk you through something.
Bear with me. Sorry, keep going.
How we use that information and how we get it. But there's also other stuff that we do. So we get additional metrics from retailers, things like their add to basket rates, the abandonment rates at the checkout, and all sorts of stuff across their website. And what we try to do is work out the answer to various questions. So they all want to know. So one thing that you'll quite often hear is, oh, there's loads of discounting going on. It's completely endemic. And to a certain extent, that's true. But what we like to do is try and quantify things. So with the program here, what we did is we got the students to look through a series of websites. So there are about 300 of them who are mostly in our index, and then some others who are interesting to us. And over November, normally, we look at these websites manually every day. So a lot of the data collection that we do comes from the retailers, but there's some manual stuff that we do too. And in November, we're looking at the retail sites every day to see if their Black Friday campaign is live, what rate of discount they're doing, and things like that. And then we run a very big director's lunch in early December to say, right, well, this is what happened around Black Friday. Black Friday being the big day and event, however long it goes on for, of the year. So we have all that stuff, and we really forensically understand discounting in November. What we didn't understand was the rest of the year. So people quite often ask us things like, but what about June, for example? Is there sort of a discounting pattern that goes on there? So what we did with the students is we asked them on a weekly basis to look at a series of websites, and for most of the time just track whether they've got a discount campaign live on their homepage and what the rate of discount is. And then we've used that to try and work out a few things. So on to the next slide. First, this is from a presentation that we gave in September. So we've been tracking this over the summer months, and this was just as a sort of nod to Fashion Business School to say these were the students who were working on this thing with us, and for each of the ones that have done it, we're also preparing a sort of certificate as well to say that they've been involved in our thing. So there's big thanks to them for doing it, really. And then on to the first slide of content then. So the first thing that we looked at was how many, because what we're doing with this really is trying to quantify certain things. So the first thing is how many of these retailers, of the 300 we were looking at, had a discount live on each of these weeks. So if you just run the line, you see there's quite a big change there. Now, it's slightly misleading, that change, because like I say, we normally do this in November. We look at the sites regularly. When we went into lockdown in March, we thought this is probably something we should look at now as well to see how retailers are responding to to this change. So in April, we were doing it internally at IMRG, but we're quite a small team. It's quite an onerous thing for us to do. Hence, getting a larger team of students to take it on was a welcome relief, really. So we were doing it in April through to May. Where you see that red dotted line, that is a gap of about 7 weeks where we didn't have the tracker going and then the students took over. So that very sharp line is a little bit misleading. So while we wanted to understand throughout the year what's kind of going on, the pandemic obviously has exerted some influence. And I think you can see in April, it's a very flat line. So it's about 125 for each week of April into May, where there's not really any change in who's discounting. And we think that that's a response to what was going on. So when the pandemic happened, there was a huge surge of sales online, which meant that the campaigns that they may have been planning to run were completely disrupted. And in quite a few cases, really, they were slightly reluctant to run campaigns that would get more orders in because they were drowning a little bit. So hence, I think you see that quite static. And then when you get into the last week of June, though, you can see it's gone up an awful lot. So it might be here that normal service is being resumed a little bit. And it's really very high if you think about it. It's about 2/3 of them for most of that time are actually doing it. And then it did kind of tail off a little bit. So on to the next slide. What we're looking at here is an incredibly complicated slide, but it's looking at discount by category. So if you just run the first bar, on the week commencing the 29th of June, for example, what we looked at is of all the retailers that were in discount, and if you remember, it was about 200 or so, what category were they selling in? So, and it's coloured by bar to show the percentage by each category. So for example, at the very top there, you can see the light blue bar, and that's about 5%. So that's telling you about 5% of the retailers in discount were accessories retailers. And if you go a bit further down, you can see that big yellow block, that's clothing. So there's a lot of clothing retailers in discount, but there's also just a lot of retailers that sell clothing online. It's a very popular category online. But if you run the rest of the bars there, the thing that kind of stands out really is there isn't really much movement here. So if you look week by week, you don't see one category suddenly expanding quite a lot and another one kind of vanishing away. They seem to retain the same kind of share of it, really. So I think that's kind of telling you something, which will become slightly more evident in just a minute. So on to the next slide. So what we're going to show you here is the percentage of retailers who are in discount by category. So if you just run the first line, which is accessories again. This is now looking at, for accessories retailers, what percentage of them had a discount campaign live on each of those weeks. So in week commencing the 29th of June, for example, 80% of the accessories retailers had a discount campaign live. And it did actually get up to 100% in week commencing the 20th of July. So every single one of them had a discount campaign live. Now, the thing is, you kind of assume that retailers would be looking at each other a bit and thinking, they've got a sale on, we're going to go into sale so that they don't steal all our customers. But I think the thing that really stands out here, if we start to sort of run the lines, so the next one is beauty, that's beers, wines and spirits. The thing that stands out really is that they're really quite straight, these lines. They don't really jump around too much. Where you do get quite a big incline or decrease like that is because there's probably not that many retailers who just sell in that category. So that purple one there, for example, you see a big drop. There's probably actually only a couple of retailers that turned it off. So it's not quite as sweeping as it looks. Home and garden is a massive category. Just garden on its own is not quite as big. Beers, wines and spirits is the grey one there. You're actually not that likely to get a discount from beers, wines and spirits. That's a bit of a shame. But the thing that does stand out is they're really quite straight. And if you just go on to the next slide, we put these on 2 slides just because there's so many categories. So this is the same thing. Again, the first line is home, and then it's lingerie. Luxury, very, very high, by the way, that grey one. A lot higher than you might have expected. Men's, reasonably high. Multi-category. Sports is really quite straight. And the women's line is actually very high and really quite consistently high. So again, the lines don't really move around that much. So it's kind of telling you that within each category, there are certain retailers who are just more inclined to offer a discount. It's just the type of proposition that they have. And there's others who are quite a lot more resistant to it because they want to protect the image of their brand. They don't want to be seen as a sort of discount brand. So I'm going to try and look at it in a slightly different way now. Just go on to the next slide. Oh, sorry, one more. So this is the percentage. No, sorry, I forgot about it. It's just a final bit on here. So this is looking at the retailers that were always in discount. So you see down there, you've got all the categories, and what that's telling you is that along the bottom there, you can see men's, and 71% of the retailers in menswear discounted at some point in that sort of 9-week period that the students were tracking over the summer. But if you look at the top there, womenswear, garden, beauty, accessories, 100% of them did it at some point over that period. So, but a lot of those percentages are actually very, very high. There's a lot of them in 90, not many under 80 at all, really. So there's a lot that goes on. And actually only 12% of them, of the retailers, of the 300, never had a discount campaign live at any point in July or August. And what we tried to do then was just see if there's anything revealing about the sort of fortunes, if you like, of their category. So is it you go into discount because things are hard? But actually this doesn't stack up at all if you look at those numbers on the right hand side. So garden, 100% of them did it, and the August year-on-year growth was 286%. That's not a normal figure. That's a pandemic figure that's driven it really, really high. Women's wear not having a very good time, but then a bit further down you can see menswear up 17%. So there's quite a lot of kind of difference there, and it doesn't really seem to stack up. Now we're going to look at it in a slightly different way. So this is looking at the type of discount that they were doing. So one of the things that we asked the students to do was to track the type of discount that was on offer. So some retailers, for example, will say they'll do a category discount, and it will say up to 50% off jeans or something like that. And then other retailers will do a discount that says 25% off everything on our site. And there's two types of site-wide discount you can do. There's 25% off everything. So everything on the site will have 25% off it. Or you can do up to 50% off everything on our site. So not everything is 50%. It's just everything has a discount that possibly might be as high as 50%. And by the way, with that, when you do those kind of discounts, if you say up to, you have to have a certain percentage of them that are actually 50% in order to say it. Otherwise, it's kind of illegal. So if we look at the lines here, this is just showing you the number of retailers that had these very extreme kind of discounts live. When you go to everything at a certain discount, that is kind of the biggest thing that you can do. There isn't much wriggle room after that. But the lines are actually kind of parallel. They do sort of switch over a little bit. So what that's telling you is that it's probably the same retailers that are doing it. It's just that sometimes it's everything off and sometimes it's up to. And some of those retailers, you definitely would know them, particularly in fashion. They do these flash sales and things, and it's, come and get it. It's 30% of everything today only, kind of thing. So that's kind of what accounts for that. Again, so that's a specific bracket of retailers that do that everything kind of off. So not massively common though, you can see there. So there's only sort of 14, 15, 16 at most of the 300 that did that, even at a peak. Now, just going to the next slide. Sorry, what have I done here? I've completely forgotten what this is. Oh yes, this is the categories, and very simply, it's just the number of retailers that offered that by category. Okay, so most of the time it's just one or two. Clothing is by far the most popular, and particularly if you add menswear and women's wear in as well, it's actually well over half in each of them that do that. But you've got to remember that fashion is massive online. It's a lot of retailers sell clothes online, so it's not necessarily saying that clothing are more likely to do that. It's just there's loads of them. Now I think we're going to look at it in a slightly different way. So the thing with this is we did all this tracking, and in order to make sense of some data that you've tracked, really you need to know the year-on-year comparison. So for example, if you looked at July and you've said this many retailers are in discount and this is the type of discount they're offering, you really need to compare it with the same period last year in order to understand whether it's more or less. Now we don't have that, so this is the first time that we've tried to do that. So we can't compare with June. But the thing that we do have is a lot of tracking around Black Friday. So what we wanted to understand is this discounting different from what happens around Black Friday? And just this is again just to quantify it, just numerically. So the first thing is we looked at how many of them had a discount live, right? So in the peak over the period we were tracking was the week commencing the 29th of June, when there were 224 retailers that had a discount campaign live. And then on Black Friday, how many have got a discount campaign live? And it's about 260. So it's about 15% higher. It's not maybe as big a gap as you might expect. Black Friday is the day of discounting when everybody knows you've got a pile in, everyone's shopping, etc. But it's not actually that much higher. So what's that kind of telling us? If we just go on to the next slide. This is the one I think this is massively confusing, this slide. I usually have quite a long build into this one to explain what these things mean, so bear with me a bit. But what we're looking at here is, if you remember earlier, I was talking about the difference between up to and everything. Okay, so 25% off everything, up to 50% off this. And then you can do it in all sorts of different ways. So if you just run the first two bars there, these two are, the first one there is Black Friday, so on Black Friday, and then the second one there is that final week in June. And what that's showing you is how many retailers had a discount live that was saying up to a certain amount within this category. Okay, so up to 50% off kitchen appliances, or up to 30% off jumpers. And as you can see there's quite a big gap between them. And the color of the bar, by the way, is telling you how many of them had a certain rate live. So the big green thing there is telling you that, I don't know, how many is that, 60 or something of the retailers there had 50% off. So up to 50% off within a category. And when you do up to, you can see you can do those big numbers. So 50% up to 60% kind of thing. You say the big number, actually there's quite a lot of stuff that's a bit below that. But it's a lot more common to do that type of thing in June moving into July. And I think that tells you because it's clearance. So they're trying to get rid of stuff rather than trying to attract you, which is what Black Friday is trying to do. And then the next two, this is a category, a blanket within the category. So what that's saying is 50% off all kitchen appliances, 30% off all jumpers. There's not too much difference, but you can see there is far more likely to do 10, 15, 20, 25% off when you're doing everything within a category. So the range comes down quite a lot. And then the third one is up to site-wide discount. Not very common to see that in over the summer period, but a bit more common on Black Friday there. So that's saying across our entire site, it's up to 30% off everything. But then the big difference for Black Friday is that final one, which is a blanket discount across the whole thing. So they're saying 25% off absolutely everything on our website. Really, really uncommon to see that in June. Massively common to see that around Black Friday. So about a third of them do that on Black Friday. So that is the thing that they kind of go to. I think that might be the end of that. It is indeed. So that's how we use that. And now I think Matthew's going to explain some of the other stuff that we do. And I just have to jump off, but I'll be back in a bit. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. And Matt, yes. Welcome. Thank you. Do you want to show us a little bit about the background to all of that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name's Matthew Walsh. I'm the Director of Data and Retail at IMRG. It's essentially my job to crunch the numbers, make sure everything is accurate. And all of those graphs and slides that you saw Andy just presenting there, that comes from a big base of data, lots of spreadsheets and lots of tables. So what I'm going to show you now is a little glimpse as to how we actually end up with those graphs, how the data is collated, how it's crunched, and what IMRG actually do in order to end up with a presentation that we can go and show the market. So something that was very close to being included in Andy's slide deck was this graph. It's very similar to what you've just seen, but this particular graph has been taken from the data that the students have actually been collating. What it's telling you is the number of retailers that were involved in a specific level of discount. So, for example, let's take this green slot on the left-hand side here. That looks to be around about 70 or so retailers. And because it's green, it means that they had a discount of between 50 and 59%. Now, the interesting thing about this graph is the downwards trend. So it goes from the end of June all the way across to the end of October. And it looks as though the volume of discounts that's being offered by all the retailers that the students were tracking has slowly started to go down. And that's a very interesting trend to report. And one of the slides that Andy just showed you, that super complicated one, comparing Black Friday to the middle of June, that was a precursor slide to this. So what I thought would be useful is to actually show you how we make this graph, how the data comes across, and the information that the students actually collated, and how we end up with getting it onto a spreadsheet. So just going to change the screen that we are sharing through. So hopefully now you are seeing a spreadsheet full of lots of retailers' numbers and codes and stuff. This is an export from what the students were tracking. So down the left-hand side, we have a list of many different retailers that all of the students were looking at. And across the top, running from left to right, we have dates upon which they would come in and enter a specific code. So what we're left with is this massive spreadsheet of lots of different codes, lots of different dates, lots of different retailers. And it's a bit of a higgledy-piggledy mess. You can't make any insights or useful information from just using this spreadsheet. You can see the difference between how somebody might look at this spreadsheet and how somebody might look at that slide that you just saw. There's a world of difference in terms of the value that you can get out of it. So what we did at IMRG was we took the really useful raw data that the students had collated across all of these weeks. And what you have to do is pick out the specific piece of information that you're after, normalize it, and organize it in a way that is easy for Excel to understand. So what we actually did, and the thing that we were after, was the number. If you look in all of these cells, you'll see there's a specific code. It'll either say CU and then a couple of digits, or it might say SE and a couple of digits. Lots of different numbers and variations that correlate to the type of discount that that retailer was offering. But what we wanted was the number. So with a little fancy Excel trick, we were able to duplicate this entire table and copy it below. If we scroll all the way down here, we copied it below, but with some fancy Excel formulas, we pulled out just the numbers. So you'll see here, we've reduced it from being CU25 down to just being a set of numbers. Now that's really useful because it tells us all the different values of discounts that were being offered on that day. The next stage is to work out how many numbers there were and which bracket they occupied. So another Excel trick that we can do down at the bottom here is add up a specific number of retailers that fit within a bracket of discount. So here you can see some formulas. So up the top here, where my mouse is just highlighted, is a formula within Excel that is saying, look in all of that column and tell me how many times a number that is larger than 10 but lower than 19 occurs. What it does is it adds that up and tells you that that happens 18 times. And what we do is we do that same idea, but for the different values of discounts. And what you end up with is a lovely little table of data that's counting all of the pieces of information that the students have collated. And you end it up in a nice, simple, easy format to crunch it down, distill it down into just a few different numbers of discount. And then within Excel, you can just get it to generate a table, a graph even, that looks very similar to what you just saw in PowerPoint. In terms of difficulty, for the analytics fans watching this, those that are interested in some kind of career within data, what you just saw in terms of difficulty is relatively low. So I would gauge it as kind of a 2 out of 10 in terms of the difficulty scale of crunching the numbers and sorting out the data. It isn't that complicated. What is a little bit more complicated and something that we thought would be really fun to show you is the IMRG digital dashboard. So IMRG have a digital dashboard whereby all of the data that we collect from retailers, it gets punched into this really nice virtual environment. Let me just share my screen with you. Give me 2 seconds. Hopefully now you are seeing the IMRG digital dashboard. This is where all of our market data ends up. It pulls in the data from 150 retailers' website sales figures every single week. And retailers can go on, look to see how their market is performing. They can choose different product sectors. They can see whether they want to see clothing, menswear, women's wear, and all the data will update, and they'll get to see how their specific sector has performed. Now, for the analytics fans watching this, this is running off something called Power BI. That is a business intelligence tool. It's a data visualization tool. If you are interested in a career in data analytics, I would definitely recommend getting to grips with something like Power BI or something like Tableau. Both two of those are software packages that specialize in visualizing data. And this is powered by pulling all of the information from a database that IMRG host. And that database is kept in something called SQL Server, which is what you're seeing now. This is the real raw heart of all the information that IMRG track. This has got every single number, digit, little data point that we track, and it's stored in this gigantic database. And you can go through and interrogate this database to your heart's content. What happens is the IMRG digital dashboard sucks out data from this database and visualizes it on the IMRG website. And without wishing to scare anybody, we could go on for a very long time to show you precisely how this works. In terms of difficulty in programming this database, it gets into kind of a 5 or 6 or a 7 out of 10. For my recommendation would be to anybody that is interested to get real analytics skills would be to study the database programming language called SQL or SQL. If you can start to learn that, I would definitely recommend that would be a good thing to do because it will put you in a good position for an analytics career. And that is it. That is the end of my little section. I will stop sharing my screen and hand back to Hannah.
Matt, thank you very much. When we see it like that, we realize the amount of work that has actually gone on behind the scenes to actually produce something that we can make some sense of. When I say we, I mean myself.
The trick is always in making the data usable for the end user. You can have tables and tables of information and graphs and spreadsheets, but if you can't explain it and visualize it for the end user, then it's almost pointless in doing. Yeah.
So I must admit, when I was overseeing the students gathering the data, it was just a sea of numbers and letters, as you just showed to us. And it's great to be able to see this presented in a visual way. So that just leaves me now to present the students. So thank you all for being so patient. But it'd be really lovely if you could all introduce yourselves. And then I know that there's further findings that you picked up on when you were doing the analysis and the gathering research. So it'd be great if you could, following your introduction from all of you, to then have a short discussion about some of those findings. So I'm going to ask Aarushi, please, could you introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I'm Aarushi Kohli, and I'm actually from India. And I just recently completed my MBA from London College of Fashion. And I think one of the primary reasons for me to, participate in the internship was the whole thing about big data that Matt just explained to us. And then, how is it like collected? How is it interpreted? How is it analyzed? And then finally utilized by us in the industry. And also, just to see how different retail sectors were responding to the crisis, how were they reaching out to the consumers, and the discounting and all of that, and the language they were using. And also that this also kind of supported my final consultancy project for the MBA. So that was like a bonus for me. But no, really, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Great, and congratulations on finishing your MBA.
Thank you.
Arunima?
Hi everyone, I'm from India as well. I'm Arunima Dhawan and I've also just completed my MBA and like just 1 month back. And one of the main reasons I was attracted to this project was that my consultancy research was also revolved around electronic and social commerce, which was a big reason that I really wanted to participate in the IMRG data collection study. And obviously with each retailer using data analysis so extensively in their strategies, and data analysis being such a great topic to explore these days, to know about marketing and the strategy. So I really wanted to do this and it was a great experience overall. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great, and also congratulations on completing your MBA.
Thank you so much.
Joanna?
Hi everyone, my name is Joanna Pietrzak. I'm currently the third year student of MSc Strategic Fashion Management. And the main reason, I guess, to join the internship was to kind of driven by the business analytics subject that I just completed a semester before, and to kind of understand how it's done, how we get the end product, but as well to seeing all the pandemic all around the world and to see the response of industry, because the things like pandemic doesn't happen too often, and to be able to see with your own eyes with a front seat kind of how it responds and what they're doing, it's kind of was the one in a kind experience, which I'm really grateful for.
Great, thank you very much, Joanna. Perfect, great. Thank you and good luck continuation with your studies. Merve.
Hi everyone, I'm Merve. I'm also a third year strategic fashion management student, just like Joanna. Much like her, I mainly became interested in data analysis because of a business analytics unit in our course. And I thought this experience, this project was so interesting because whilst we kind of did the end part of it and analyzed the data that had already been collated, it was interesting to see the other side and see the very first step of how data analysis works. And yeah, I'm just super interested in the subject, and I thought this was a great first stepping stone into becoming more familiar with the topic.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Merve. Great, thank you. And last but not least, we have Tanya.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanya El-Khatib and I've just finished the MSc Strategic Fashion Management, so I completed that in May. And to be honest, the IMRG internship just came up at a really good time because I'd just been let go from my job, and I was just like, it was like literally the same day that Hannah emailed us, and I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to learn something different. I'd never really looked into data analytics from a data collection perspective apart from doing my master's degree, and I've always wondered, how do like market research companies get the data that they get? Like when we use like Mintel and Kantar, they have all these percentages and statistics. I'm like, how do you know this? Like, where is this information coming from? So it was a really good opportunity to see the behind the scenes. Yeah.
Brilliant, great. Thank you very much, Tanya. Okay, so just a question to all of the students. So throughout your time of looking at and collecting the data, which ran from actually the months of June to October, did you see any sort of variations in how retailers perhaps displayed their discounting? So we've had quite a lot of insights from Andy and Matt on the depth of discounting and the percentage of product that was discounted, but how about how retailers actually presented their discounting? Anya, would you like to go first?
Can I go first?
Of course you can.
Yeah, I felt for the discounts, well, it entirely dependent on the discount or the markdown that the brand was offering. It was just if it was just a part of the clearance sale, then that kind of discount would not go into the header or the main design of the page or the main banner of the page. And if they were actually offering something more than so substantial as 50 to 70% discount, so the like headers and the banners change to something like flashy gifs, or the entire coloring of the page got changed, and like as they did when they were displaying about their and promoting about their mid-season sale. And so that got, the entire design aesthetics of the website got changed into something very attractive and alluring, and it was on top of the website. So that's what I perceived.
It couldn't be missed. Okay. Anyone else like to add?
I think when it comes to discounting, every retailer kept it in line with their aesthetics and how they want to be perceived. So you have, because I did like Boohoo, and that was like consistently in discount. It varied the extent of the discount. Sometimes it'd be 30, sometimes it'd be 70, but it was always the first thing that you saw when you landed on the page, on their like main landing page. But like, for example, Farfetch, which is sort of like a higher end retailer, when they did have a sale, it would be very subtle. It would just be the small tab, and like in red saying sale, and it was just less in your face. And I feel like that really mirrors physical retail, because it's the same sort of vibe that you get when you're walking down the street. If you're walking past like luxury shops, you never see huge posters like splashed with 70% discount, but you might see it if you're walking past fashion, like yeah,
or something like that. So it's kind of,
yeah,
you have to kind of seek it out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Tanya. Anyone else like to add any comments?
I think one thing I would like to add is that what I observed was, there was a difference in the category of fashion brands as well. Like, for example, luxury and premium brands. When we started out, there were certain kind of discounts there. And then, then after that, it was all flat. There was no discount on them whatsoever. But then on the other hand, high street fashion brands, like Tanya said, that there were consistent discounts throughout that. And they were rather clever about how they put forward their discounts as well, like 25% off everything. And there's this like a tiny star on it, and conditions applied. And then you're like, oh, this does not apply to that. So you kind of had to be a little, you've got to like dig deep and then see like, okay, this is not applicable here or that. But then again, they would have it in that big flashing, like the screen when you're like, oh, this percent is off. And, like on this particular category. But then like, yeah, they were quite strategic about it, even though they did have it, but then they had their own terms and conditions. So that was also something we had to keep an eye for. So yeah, that was one of the observations.
Yeah, thank you. I must admit, I always spot the discount, and then whatever I want to buy is never in discount. So I'm the one that never reads that small star. Any other comments you'd like to add?
Well, the one thing I think I would like to add is that the high street retailer that consider themselves premium, you could notice that they started discounting way more and way more frequently. So they were trying to find a balance, like between being recognized as a boohoo, because they didn't want to be flashy and just using those gifts starting. However, they were sort of, because of the industry and the situation, were pushed to do the discounts and do them frequently. So you could see that they are kind of trying to find a balance between them. However, at the end result, they were continuously discounting as the time went on. And one thing I noticed as well is that, yes, in July and August, we had like the results of the stores being closed. But as the stores open, the discount started to slow down. However, when the talk of the second lockdown started to become more serious in September and October, you could see the sales starting back again, but this time not on the old stock, but now on the new season stuff. so autumn and winter season, because they were afraid, I think, of the consequences of the loom of the second lockdown that is just about to happen.
Right, yeah, and it'd be really interesting to see. And I know IMRG, you're in the process of tracking this, and in fact, we've got another second group of students that are involved in collection of this data. But Black Friday, all stores, physical stores, non-essential, are going to be closed. So it'd be very interesting to see what the outcome is going to be of Black Friday event. Never before have we seen this. So it'd be fascinating to see what the findings are from that study.
It will, and also look out for it in the press. There's a bit of a story war going on in the media at the moment, because we're reading about all of these doom mongers saying that Black Friday is going to be a damp squid, and everything that I'm seeing from Walsh and Andy coming through in terms of data suggests the opposite. So we've gone out with a fairly positive online story. It'd be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the uncertainty of business, who knows?
Who knows?
Merve, did you want to add something?
To be very honest, when it comes to discounting, I feel like everything has been discussed that I had in mind. When it comes to Black Friday, I'd say I'm just as curious as you and Justin and probably everyone else, mainly because I've noticed a lot of retailers are pushing their Black Friday sales to a very early date. For example, Gymshark started theirs on Friday. And I think everyone's just trying to get there before the other retailers to get people to spend money as fast as possible.
Yeah, I
but
think
yeah, that's all I have to add.
Yeah, given the current environment, there's a huge amount of nervousness, isn't there, on consumer confidence, and retailers desperate for consumers to choose them as the location to spend their money. You were also all tracking newsletters. Was there any sort of interesting points that you noticed from looking at the weekly newsletters?
I thought it was quite interesting because I'm personally signed up to a lot of newsletters, so actually tracking them in a more professional and regulated environment was quite interesting, because I'm signed up to big retailers and they obviously send out a specific number of emails every week. So for example, Ted Baker, I think they had about 3 or 4 emails every week regularly. But then I noticed that smaller retailers, probably because they also don't have the resources and means to invest into it, just weren't as regular. And when it came to smaller retailers, usually when I received a newsletter, it was about a sale. So it usually was them trying to attract more customers. Whereas when it was big retailers, it was always just an ad campaign or them just advertising their newest collection.
They're not always about discounting with your bigger retailers.
Exactly.
Different variation.
Yeah, I think definitely with the newsletters, there was definitely a difference between tracking it from a professional side and having your personal sign up, because I made a separate email to sign up to newsletters to track for IMRG separately, and I noticed that I received a lot less frequently from retailers. But my personal email, I am also signed up to quite a few retailers, and they definitely personalize their newsletters a lot more if you've actually purchased from them, because I often get recommendations within the newsletter about similar products to what I've previously purchased. And I think that's it makes you feel like someone sat there, looked at what you've purchased and written that email just for you. It's so strange. But yeah, I think when you've actually purchased from the retailer, it's almost like you're developing this relationship with the retailer, and they're more likely to send you more newsletters with more information about more products that are similar to what you've bought or might be related somehow. That's what I felt.
Yeah, so another use of data.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Any other observations anyone may have made about?
Yes, I have one, and it's mainly like the number of the emails in the newsletter you would receive from the retailer would be very proportional to how premium the retailer is. So the more premium, not really high street or fast fashion, the less emails that would carry with. So so I was signed up as well to the retailers like Wayfair, which is some sort of furniture and home stuff, you would get 6 to 7 emails every week. Where to more premium retailers, like even the multi-brand, like Zalando that I was signed up, you would, unless you purchase from them, they wouldn't bother you with more than 1 or 2 emails on average every week, which is really interesting to see, because the more high street, you would get 5 to 7 emails a week every day with different, slightly different promotion or even repeating promotion, just to get your attention, so you would eventually click on something and would direct you to the website itself.
So a few more begging emails from your high street retailers.
Definitely.
Communication from your luxury side. Okay. Okay. And as a whole, do you feel that perhaps your perception of the value of data has changed in completing this internship in collaboration with IMRG?
I'll just go first, I guess. I feel like my perception on the value of data has changed massively, mainly because I hadn't realized how much manual work goes into it. I always thought it was all automated or, you know, done by AI. And suddenly it makes sense why big data is such a big topic, and why technology and innovation is being pushed for, because I personally hadn't realized how much effort and work goes into it. And I'm definitely appreciating those WGSN and passport graphs I'm using in my reports a lot more than I did previously, because whenever I thought of data collation, I think of my year 12 science classes where you just draw your graphs and be fine. So yeah, definitely a lot more appreciation.
Brilliant, thank you, Merve. Yeah, I think it's been really fascinating, Matt, for you to show us under the bonnet, as you call it, to make us realize just one simple slide, the amount of work. And, you know, students have been working on this project for a number of months, and that was literally for a series of slides which Andy presented in a space of 5-10 minutes. So a lot of work has definitely gone on behind the scenes.
It takes a lot of work to create just a single slide, and something that also shouldn't be underestimated is ensuring the integrity and accuracy of each data point is correct. So if you happen to get a random anomaly, or somebody has typed in the wrong letter or something in the spreadsheet, it will cause a skew and the graph will look weird. So a lot of time in data analytics can be spent just narrowing down to find where the small error is.
Yeah, the challenges. Any other sort of observations or thoughts on the value of data from any of the participants in the internship?
I guess when it comes to data, if you don't have context and you have nothing to compare it to, it really can't tell you that much. And there is a lot of information out there, but you have to be, I feel like you have to be selective about what you choose to look into, because it can be like so overwhelming. If you're a brand looking at all this data and thinking like, where do I start to try and understand what the competition is like? You probably will be put off from going into the sector altogether. But I think, yeah, you need context. You need to understand what is happening. Like everything else matters. It's like you don't understand how important pastel is until you do something like this. And then you realize that you need to understand what's happening politically, economically, socially. Like, yeah, it is really important.
I think that's a very valid point, because also when Justin first approached us and asked if we had any willing students wanting to work with IMRG, you were very honest, Justin. You said actually they won't just be tracking fashion and beauty retailers, they'll be tracking home and garden and electrical and you know, but the end of the day, those different sectors actually have an influence on fashion consumption and beauty consumption. So nothing can be sort of looked at in isolation. It's definitely important to look at various different aspects of information. So we have about 5 minutes to go. I don't know whether to open the floor up for any questions. Yes, Justin.
I did have something I just wanted to touch on for, I suppose, as much for the people on this webinar, but also, you know, listening in who we can't see on camera. And that's obviously we've talked a lot about the support you've given us, which has been immeasurable and allowed us to do all this great stuff and turn it into these great stories, which you know, enlighten the retail sector. So it's a really useful exercise. There's a level of support I think we can offer back to you as a student body, and that's, you know, past students, existing students, and students who are going to join the program. And there's a number of things I think we can do. I don't know if you're aware of them. The first thing is, if there were any information requests you had, or you needed information from the IMRG website behind the paywall, or you needed to access a presentation maybe that Matt and Andy have created from the data tracking you've done, no problem, okay? We'd be very happy to provide you with those sorts of examples for you to use, in whether it was for academic purposes or for a business project you're involved in, or whatever. So do contact us about that. Second thing, we're a membership community. So we have a very, very active network of about 10,500 retailers, but also within that community, we have what we call solution providers. So tech vendors, people who help the retailers sell stuff online. So everyone who's anyone in the world of online retail and e-commerce is in our community. It would be good for you to sort of connect into that, and feel free to. We'd love you to connect with us on LinkedIn, and if there were any other connections you wanted us to help you broker, I think between the three of us, we'd be very happy to do that. We do also a couple of small things. We've produced certificates for students that have been involved in this research program to date, and we will do so for all future students. That gives you something tangible that you could, you know, include in your applications or whatever to a prospective employer. And also we list the current student body, the research body, on the bottom of our website. So if you go to the IMRG website, you'll see at the bottom that highlighted the partnership, and we put a photograph of you and a biography there. So we'd be very happy, and in fact, we're keen to do that. And the last thing I was going to say, Andy has invited, I think, on some occasions, a number of you to come and join him, or Matt, on a panel on one of our webinars. So there's the opportunity also to, you know, to take the stage, so to speak, the virtual stage at the moment, and you know, build your profile. And it's just listening to you now and some of the insights that you yourselves have kind of gathered through the research process. I was particularly interested to hear, you know, the fact that, I mean, probably maybe Matt and Andy know this, I didn't, right? The fact that premium brands, you know, send out so fewer emails than kind of lower tier brands. I didn't know that. So, you know, it's stuff like that maybe we don't have all the answers in IMRG, and we'd love to hear it from you, and to sort of interview you on these webinar opportunities. You know, that can work really well as well. So it's kind of, we can give back as well. Thank you for all your support.
Oh, Justin, thank you very much. Well, we're really appreciative to IMRG for giving all of our students this opportunity. And I know, probably speak on behalf of all the students, but we just have a selection of students here today. But we have a total of, I think, about 50 students that have worked with you or are currently working with you. And yeah, they're extremely grateful. Despite my constant nagging reminder that the data needs to be correctly inputted and needs to be done on a regular basis. But this was the first group of students. and you've set a very high standard. You every week religiously collected the data and inputted it correctly. I don't think we had any difficulties or any challenges. So thank you.
And we've actually managed to get some benefit from that already anyway, because it's actually got us some media coverage, the stuff that they've done. So we were looking at the number of retailers that have launched early in November, launched their Black Friday campaigns early this year, and compared it to last year. And as of the 11th of November, 11.6% of them, of the 320, had launched a live campaign. The same day last year, 3%. So it's up by a factor of 4, basically, the ones that have launched really early. So that's really interesting. And obviously, we're only able to get that statistic out to the media because of the tracking they're doing. So it's, it's very useful.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Justin, Andy, and Matt from IMRG. And thank you to our panel of students. And thank you to all who've listened in today. And
thanks a lot.
thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.